I'll ask about the game too.
Yeah, well, I mean, you guys came for basketball.
Yeah,
Let's
no,
talk
seriously.
about basketball.
Yeah.
Come on now.
April 22nd, 2024. The Indiana Fever had just completed a long, regular season grind as Caitlin Clark continued to light up the WNBA like never before. But behind the scenes, things weren't as smooth as they seemed. There were players Caitlin didn't just compete with, she couldn't stand them. Some of these rivals trash-talked her, some tried to get physical with her on the court, and some, they just showed up. And that was enough to ignite a fire inside one of the most competitive players women's basketball has ever seen. One of them even caused Caitlin to walk off practice early. Caitlin once told her teammates, "Don't even look her way. I'm not here to make friends." These weren't just casual rivalries, these were personal. So who were the 7 WNBA players that earned Caitlin Clark's full-blown dislike? From subtle jabs to heated on-court battles, you're about to discover the names that fueled Caitlin's competitive fire and changed the game forever. When it comes to Caitlin Clark's most personal rivalry, Angel Reese is without a doubt number 1. The tension between them didn't just spark overnight. It exploded in the 2023 NCAA championship game between Iowa and LSU. That game was more than a basketball contest. It was a culture war, a clash of styles, and a fierce battle of wills. Reese was at her most fiery, chasing Caitlin up and down the court and taunting her with Caitlin's own iconic "you can't see me" gesture. That one move went viral and became a national talking point. And for Caitlin, even though she kept her game face on during that championship, you could see the intensity in her eyes. You could tell every part of her hated losing that game, and more than that, hated that someone was rubbing it in. And here's the thing, that hate didn't just disappear when Caitlin moved on to the pros. Even as they both joined the WNBA, Caitlin with the Indiana Fever and Reese with the Chicago Sky, that fire followed them. Every matchup between them feels electric and personal. Caitlin plays like someone who's been waiting for this moment since that painful title loss. Every drive to the basket feels like revenge. Every deep three-pointer is a reminder. You may have gotten me once, but I'll never let you have it again. Angel Reese isn't someone Caitlin will ever look at as just another player. Every Sky Fever game is packed with tension. Every brush of shoulders or stare down carries more weight than most rivalries in the league. Fans can sense it too. They lean in a bit closer to the screen every time these two face off, knowing Caitlin is playing to reclaim her dominance and erase that painful college memory. Even if they publicly say they respect one another, deep down Caitlin carries a competitive hate that drives her to one-up Angel every chance she gets. But if you thought Angel Reese was the only player who got under Caitlin Clark's skin, think again. Because what happened next, with a completely different player, would push Caitlin to a breaking point few had ever seen. And the way she responded? Let's just say, it changed the course of an entire season. You won't believe who did it, or how far it went. Caitlin Clark and Paige Bueckers might smile for the cameras, but you'd never guess they respect each other by watching them on the court. From the moment Caitlin broke out as a star at Iowa, the comparisons began. Headlines like Bueckers versus Clark. The future of women's basketball followed them like a shadow, and Caitlin couldn't stand being measured against someone else. So when UConn and Iowa finally clashed in the 2024 Final Four, Caitlin wasn't just playing to win. She was playing to prove a point. Every pass, every shot, every rebound was a deliberate, forceful message. I'm better. And even though Caitlin is measured in her post-game comments, telling reporters she and Paige have mutual respect, her body language tells a different story. Even after big wins, Caitlin looks laser-focused and rarely cracks a smile. That's because Paige Bueckers represents a part of Caitlin's career that she absolutely hates. Being compared, being doubted, having her success constantly put up against someone else's. That edge Caitlin plays with against UConn, that's the hate talking. It's the part of Caitlin that can't stand sharing the spotlight. Every game against Paige and UConn is a reminder that Caitlin had to fight twice as hard to prove she was more than hype. And that's why these games feel personal. Sabrina Ionescu had already been called one of the WNBA's top guards by the time Caitlin Clark arrived in the league, and Caitlin took that personally. Right from their first meeting, Caitlin wasn't content to ease into the pros. She came out swinging. Sabrina had the name, the endorsements, and the respect of her peers. Caitlin had the fire to take it all. Every game they play feels less like a friendly contest and more like Caitlin pushing Sabrina to recognize her as a serious threat. Caitlin hates the idea that she might be considered a rookie next to Ionescu. So every time she steps onto the court against the Liberty, she plays like someone who's desperate to show she's already at the top. And Caitlin's game against New York reflects that intensity. Drives to the basket come faster, passes come crisper, and shots from deep seem to rain in as if Caitlin is on a personal mission. She'll stare Sabrina down after big buckets, letting everyone in the arena feel that undercurrent of hostility. Even though Sabrina speaks highly of Caitlin in interviews, praising her range and skill, Caitlin's competitive fire is less diplomatic. To Caitlin, Sabrina is more than an opponent. She's the face of a level Caitlin is determined to surpass. Every time Caitlin suits up against the Liberty, she looks like someone who hates second place. That's what drives her to go harder, faster, further, making this one of the most intense rivalries in the game today. And then there's the entire LSU Tigers team, a team Caitlin Clark will never truly forgive. The wounds from their 2023 national title game run deep. LSU was loud, proud, and unbothered after knocking Caitlin and Iowa out of their championship dream. Caitlin had carried her team all season, only to see that dream shattered by a team that wasn't shy about rubbing it in. Even months after that heartbreaking loss, Caitlin plays like someone who's still angry. She remembers every celebration, every highlight replayed on social media, every moment where LSU had the upper hand. That bitterness never left. Even as Caitlin went pro and left the college game behind, LSU feels like a ghost that follows her, one that fuels her hunger every time she steps on the floor. Even when Caitlin plays teams that have similar swagger or that physical style LSU was famous for, you can see Caitlin rise to the challenge with a chip on her shoulder. In a way, LSU shaped Caitlin into the player she is today, but Caitlin hates them for it. That hate burns hotter than most of her other rivalries because LSU didn't just beat Caitlin once. They crushed a dream she had spent her whole life working toward. Every game going forward feels like Caitlin's personal quest to prove that what happened that night was an exception, not the rule. Facing UConn in the 20-24 Final Four was a true test, and Caitlin hated every single second of it.
UConn had been the standard bearer for women's basketball for years.
Championships, legendary players, hype that never stopped. Caitlin had heard all the chatter before she even set foot on that court. Everyone wondering if this was going to be the moment UConn put her in her place. That only made her more determined to show them they weren't invincible. From the opening tip-off, Caitlin wasn't just playing to win. She was playing to put an end to UConn's stranglehold on the sport. You could see it in the way Caitlin sprinted up and down the floor, clapping her hands at her teammates and jawing at Huskies defenders every time they tried to crowd her. Every foul UConn committed against her was met with a fierce glare and a few choice words under her breath. Caitlin wasn't about to let them rattle her. The tension on the court was so thick you could feel it through the screen. Every rebound, every steal felt like Caitlin was making UConn pay for all the years they'd spent on top. And when Iowa finally pulled off that huge win, Caitlin didn't just celebrate. She stared down the UConn bench as if to say, "Your time is up." Even though she kept it together in the post-game interviews, everyone could sense that Caitlin had been fueled by a deeper, long-standing hate for UConn's reign. Even as confetti fell, Caitlin's competitive fire didn't dim. If anything, knocking UConn off their perch just made her want to do it again. Every game since then, every highlight, every media clip showing UConn fans still clinging to their glory days feels like fuel to Caitlin. Facing UConn wasn't just a matchup for her. It was personal, and it still is. When Caitlin made the jump to the WNBA, she probably thought she'd be able to focus on developing her game and adapting to the pro level. But Chicago had other ideas. The Sky decided early on that Caitlin wasn't going to waltz into their arena and get an easy ride. From their very first meeting, Chicago sent a clear message. They were going to do whatever it took to knock her off her game. Every time Caitlin cut to the basket, she felt an elbow in her ribs. Every drive into the lane ended with someone putting her on the floor. Chicago didn't just want to play her tough. They wanted to make her hate every second of it. And Caitlin did hate it. Nothing frustrates her more than someone trying to punk her, and Chicago was making a career out of it. Even when Caitlin kept her public face calm after games, those close to her could see how much it boiled her blood. Every foul felt like a personal insult, and every stare down after a whistle was like they were daring her to fight back. Caitlin may not speak on it often, but you can see it in her eyes every time she circles Chicago on her schedule. She's out for payback. That intensity only grew as Chicago kept pushing the boundaries. A nasty mid-game dust-up? Caitlin would jump up faster than most thought possible. Jaw tight, hands and fists, like she was ready to take on the whole roster herself. Post-game interviews were measured, sure, but anyone watching could sense Caitlin wasn't going to let these moments slide forever. Chicago's entire game plan was to make her hate them, and it's working. Every future game is going to feel less like regular season basketball and more like Caitlin trying to settle a score. And then there's the New York Liberty, a team Caitlin can't help but hate, loaded with big names and even bigger egos. You look at their roster: Sabrina Ionescu hitting deep threes like they're layups, Breanna Stewart acting like every game is a one-woman show. And you know Caitlin takes that personally. It's not just that they're good, it's that they seem to enjoy rubbing it in. Every time Caitlin matches up with the Liberty, it feels like she's surrounded by players who believe they deserve all the attention, all the credit, all the respect. Caitlin isn't about to give them that. That's why, whenever Caitlin plays New York, she's visibly more aggressive. Caitlin dives first. Transition 3? Caitlin pulls up in their face without a second thought. Even her passes seem sharper, like she's daring them to intercept it, just so she can take it back. Caitlin hates the hype that trails the Liberty into every arena, and every shot she hits feels like she's knocking their crown off their heads. And it's not just on the court, off the court too. Caitlin can't hide that edge. Every interview after a game against the Liberty, her voice has a different tone. Every good game handshake looks more like Caitlin just going through the motions before turning her back on them. There's no pretending here. Caitlin can't wait to see them again because every game against New York feels like an opportunity to humble them. The Liberty might be one of the most stacked teams in the league, but Caitlin is determined to make sure they never overlook her.
And that personal rivalry is only going to heat up as her career progresses.